My name is Yael Lebel, and today I want to tell you a story about a scientific journey I had in my master's. But first, let me start from the beginning. As a child, I really wanted to be a medical doctor. Unfortunately, I spent some of my childhood wandering around hospital corridors, and I always admired these doctors in the white gowns and how they understood and controlled life and death, sickness and health. But life happened, and from a cute Asian girl who wants to be a medical doctor, I became a nice blonde physics undergrad student. And when I studied physics in my bachelor's in Ben-Gurion University, I really loved the way physicists use simple, almost naive mathematics to describe our reality to an amazing accuracy. But as I grew up as a scientist, I found out that the questions physicists ask themselves today are not down to earth enough for me. So I went to search for someone that uses these tools, these mathematics, to answer questions that are biological, that are down to earth. And that's how I became a white male professor. This is how I got to Professor Uri Alon's lab, in which we use math and physics tools to answer biological questions, such as what is the origin of aging? How can we prevent mutant cells to take over, like in cancer? And how can we make sense of complex organisms and systems within our body? And around that time, when I got to Professor Nguyenlon's lab, I was watching a TV show, admittedly not a good one, don't look it up. It's called Dead to Me on Netflix. And I watched season 1 and season 2, and I found out that season 3 was delayed because the main actress, Christina Applegate, whom you might know from Friends, she was diagnosed with a disease that's called multiple sclerosis, טרשת נפוצה in Hebrew. And so multiple sclerosis, I thought I heard about it, but I was a physicist, so I didn't exactly know what it is, and I looked it up. And I found out that it is a very widespread neurological autoimmune disease. It's widespread, very widespread. It affects about 1 in 1,000 people in Western countries, and most chances are that someone in the room here knows someone with multiple sclerosis. It affects mostly women. 3 times more women than men, usually in their early adulthood, and it affects. It carries a large burden on healthcare systems worldwide, and it is a neurological autoimmune disease, which means that the immune system of the patients attack the central nervous system. So in that stage, I had a bachelor in physics. I did my first year in the physics faculty here in the Weizmann. So I had some knowledge about quantum mechanics, about atoms and photons, but I most certainly did not know anything about the immune system or what autoimmune diseases was. So I went to find out. And I found out, and I'm sorry ahead for any oversimplifications that I will do, that the immune system has 3 main goals. The first one is recognition. When it encounters a protein, it has to decide whether it is a protein that belongs to the self, to our healthy body, or it is foreign, and therefore it has to be eliminated. The second one is response. Once the immune system identifies something as a threat, it has a myriad of tools to both mark it and attack it. And the last one is protection. Meaning if the immune response will be too strong, it might hurt the host, our healthy self, and this is obviously undesired. So the immune system has these built-in mechanisms to stop itself. And this is all true for healthy immunity, but what happens when there is a fault in one of these missions, and you can get autoimmunity, which is a disease in which the immune system attacks the body. And what I found out is that many of these diseases, autoimmune diseases, have these common dynamics of relapses, meaning a patient might wake up one day with neurological symptoms such loss of vision or sensation in the limbs, or he cannot talk. And this will last for a few days or weeks and then subside on its own. And when we looked at these dynamics of symptoms, we thought that these dynamics, this sudden surge and decline of symptoms, reminded us of dynamics from other systems that we know from different fields. For example, lasers. For example, neuron firing. And for example, some chemical reactions like you can see here. And the common thread to all of these systems are that they are what's called excitable systems. And excitable systems are a class of systems that have a few distinctive features. The first one is a threshold behavior. And I always like to give the analogy for a match. So in order to strike a match, you have to strike it hard enough, right? If you don't strike it hard enough, nothing will happen. But once you strike it hard enough, something very big will happen, a very strong response, a fire, an explosion, and then it will subside into a calm state where another ignition cannot be readily initiated. And these features are common to all of these excitable systems, and you can think of how this ignition and shutdown of this match resemble these autoimmune flares. So what we did is we used the very well-known and studied mathematics of these excitable systems, and we used the freedom that we have to describe basic immune interactions to describe the immune system as an implementation of such systems, of an excitable system. And of course, I was not the first one to try and model the interactions of the different compartments of the immune system in the context of multiple sclerosis. There were already models that did that, but these models predicted that relapses are going to happen in a periodic fashion, meaning that there will be constant time between subsequent relapses. And when we talked to clinicians and patients, it did not seem to be the case. Like, patients could not point towards a regular period in which they're going to have their relapses. And it seemed to be like they can have 3 in 1 year and then 2 years without a relapse, and it seemed to be more random. So what we did is we got access to a large database of clinical data of MS patients. And when we analyzed it, we found out that relapses are really random, which is at odds with what previous model expected. But this is where our excitable model comes to the rescue. And our excitable model does predict that these relapses are random. And it can explain this lack of periodicity that many patients experience. Moreover, we could explain quantitatively the major changes that female patients experience in their relapse rate throughout pregnancy and postpartum, up to 3 times changes of their relapse rate, based on minor changes of parameters of the immune systems that were measured in the blood of pregnant women. And lastly, we could use the model to identify the most promising therapeutic target, meaning which parameter of the model would be the most effective to change in terms of relapse rate. And we found out that the most effective parameter is going to be the effectiveness of the regulatory compartment. This is the one that shuts down the immune response. Its effector capacity. And we also provide hope, since our model predicts that in order to achieve great changes in patients' lives, we only have to have minor changes in this parameter, but keep it persistent along a large period of time. And we also think that these relapses are not a bug, but a feature, meaning that the immune system is designed to give, on the one hand, strong auto-amplifying responses in response to a threat, but also to be able to shut itself down without need for an external signal. And this interplay between these two features allows the immune system to both be very effective, but keep the host intact. And looking forward, I wish to examine how the balances between these missions and the compartments of the immune system manifest in other immune contexts, such as response to a threat, cancer, and immunotherapy. So to sum it up, this is the story of how I started. I wanted to be a medical doctor. I continued in physics, and I ended up falling in love in the immune system. And I really hope that this short episode will give me the courage to be able to look into the unknown further and maybe come out on the other side smarter. Thank you.